Now, it's time to take a deep dive into the week of lefty lunacy. Not in the world of politics, but in the world of sports, with Andrew Bogut, former NBA championship player and host of the Rogue Bogues podcast. Andrew, hello. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, and welcome to the program. Now, let's kick things off here. The AFL's incoming chief executive, Andrew Dillon, has defended the league's decision to publicly support the Voice to Parliament referendum amid calls for sporting bodies and corporate giants to stay out of the debate. And speaking at the Garma Festival in northeast Arnhem Land, Mr. Dillon said it was important for the AFL to demonstrate to its players, fans, and league staff what it stood for. Andrew, I've got to ask you, why would you be doing this when all the polls are suggesting that at least half of your fan base is going to vote no?
Yeah, I think your fan base is irrelevant. You need to find who's funding the AFL, who funds the AFL, who provides grants for stadiums, arenas, who provided permission for them to play during COVID, and that would all lead to the government. So this doesn't surprise me whatsoever. I'm not shocked by it whatsoever. I think it should be non-political when it comes to sport, and especially a vote where the whole nation is going to be voting. But the AFL is basically another arm of the government. I've said this many times on this show and many times publicly. I think the AFL is heavily entrenched with, especially the Victorian government and the federal government now being Labor. It makes total sense.
Yeah, so I guess you would agree with former Prime Minister John Howard, who has said that really sport and politics don't mix and they should stay out of it.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's a pretty simple equation. I think it divides fans, it divides players in the locker room, it divides staff. You can't tell me that everybody that works in the AFL, both wearing a suit, both wearing a jersey, physios, doctors, they all agree, they're all 100% for the yes vote. Is that what you're going to tell me?
Yeah, exactly right. And I mean, the polls are saying exactly the opposite. In fact, they're going to be saying that more than half of people are going to go the other way, which is why I just simply do not understand, Andrew, why we are being put through this as a country. And yet, here we have Anthony Albanese. He's pushing us to this referendum, and yet he still has not told us when we're going to get to vote on the referendum. Here he is stumbling and bumbling his way around calls for some certainty on the date because, we got to plan our lives around this, hey?
We won't be announcing the date tomorrow. We'll announce, though, a date for the referendum at an appropriate time after consultation as well.
Look, you and I know he knows. He's just not telling us. But he has told us at least that it's not going to be held on AFL Grand Final Day on September 30th. I guess that's a wise move not to get the entire state of Victoria offside. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's funny, after the conversation we just had a couple of minutes ago, that it's not on the AFL Grand Final weekend. It is what it is. I mean, I think they should just get it over with. I was a big advocate of just spending that money that they've used on the yes or no vote to help Indigenous communities actually, go and build some infrastructure, some schools, some sporting facilities. You look at Alice Springs and the struggles there that were mentioned a couple of months ago. That's a town that's ripe for some, upgrades in facilities and some new things for these kids to go and, be involved in, rather than spending all this money on a vote that looks like it's going to fall over anyway.